Hi, I'm Jason Gore for thatshelf.com, and we're here at the Cannes International Film Festival. I'm still on top of the mountain. I figured I might as well take advantage of the view. And we're here to talk about Jonathan Glazer's Zone of Interest.
Big shelf.
Now, there's something to be said for me being here in the middle of this sort of ostentation of the film festival. We just had a dinner. Gotta say, the food wasn't particularly great, but the lemon tart was pretty good. I'm surrounded by yachts, beautiful villas, and all of that stuff up here on the hill. And we're here to talk about a film which is itself pretty austere, pretty remarkable, and pretty unforgettable. It's Jonathan Glazer's return with Zone of Interest. Now, those of you longtime watchers, or those of you who know about my rant, I have a thing that I love going into movies where I know as little as possible. And it's one of the reasons I love coming to festivals is that I have an opportunity at festivals to see things knowing as little as possible, to form my own opinion. I get offended by people who read the back of the box of DVDs. I am very much somebody who believes strongly that so much of the enjoyment of particular works is to uncover them on their own times. And there's so many films that actually sort of expect you to already know ahead of time what's taking place, and they don't put in the extra effort to actually sort of guide you as an audience. I don't mean hold your hand necessarily. I mean just simply have the space there so you're not sort of by the end of it trying to come to terms. I also like when a film is ahead of me. I like where I am forced to sort of come to terms. So if I'm going to say one thing right now, Jonathan Glazer's film is the best I've seen this year, is a front runner for winning the Palme d'Or, and is a remarkable movie. Just go see it. Now if you want to continue watching, I will say this. Opening shot is a bunch of people at beside a lake. And they're in these sort of black bathing suits or blonde-looking characters. And I gotta admit, I watched it and I'm like, they're just archaic enough bathing costumes. It was just a specific enough image from just a long shot. You heard them talking, didn't really hear what the language was. Not subtitled, and I thought, oh my God, these are Nazis. And I found myself, caught myself. I'm like, am I just succumbing? It's like every time I see something like this, oh my God, they have to be Nazis. I mean, I'm an Indiana Jones movie. It's not like it's the only thing. There's other Holocaust things going on. I'm like, ugh, they're not going to be Nazis. They can just be normal humans, normal Polish people, normal German people. It's I had seen that it was Polish Film Institute was one of the producers or collaborators, whatever it is. And then I literally felt bad. I felt guilty. I'm like, oh, let's just give the film a chance. Let's see where it actually goes. It's probably not going to be that. That'd be silly. And then they get into these vintage cars. I'm like, okay, well now I was right about the time period. And it has SS on the license plate. And I'm like, oh, okay. So are we seeing sort of, that's interesting. Are we going to see a film about the quotidian life of a bunch of Nazis? We'll see where it goes. Maybe it'll go somewhere. And then they go, and it's this wonderfully bucolic sort of house, beautifully appointed, nice white walls, and they're going, and the mom's a little bit stern and the dad's a little bit distant, and you can see, well, okay, they're officers or SS officers, and they have the sort of skull, not on the SS logo, the actual skull on their lapels. And from there the camera then pans, and the camera pans, I don't know, 10 15 minutes through the film, something like that. It felt forever. You see a tower, a very familiar tower. The tower that you see is looks like the one that the trains entered into Auschwitz. The one, anybody who's seen Schindler's List knows the one I'm talking about. Anyone who's read history knows what I'm talking about. And from there you realize what this film is. This film is nothing short of a cinematic representation of Hannah Arendt's notion of the banality of evil. And that sounds deep. We use that quote all the time, and we don't really dive into it. The true banality, the true humanity of evil, the capacity of not monsters to do the things, but bureaucrats, people doing train timetables, logistics officers, middle management. It is the whole notion, the whole basically behavior of a group who mechanized murder, who managed to conduct genocide with efficiency, who managed to basically take it upon themselves to rewrite the rules of evil, and to do so with efficiency. It's not even callous. It's complete dehumanization of certain individuals through incredibly humanistic industrial mechanisms. And it is a film that just astonishes. It as it explores more and more the actual horrors are taking place almost entirely in the soundtrack. And I should say that as it opens, there's a white logo, and then it cuts to a black screen. You hear this music, which is somewhere between a scream and the grinding of gears. It is the sound of death. And that soundtrack is so capable of bringing you in. It's so startling that you're almost unaware about how experimental all of this is going to be. You're almost unaware about how this is going to play out. And then again, that cut to that sort of pastoral view of them in the water, family at play. And it's this constant divide between you're worrying about the flowers growing, and those flowers are fertilized literally by people. It's an extraordinary film, incredibly moving, incredibly well done, and one that sort of leads in such a sophisticated and beautiful way into a true, deep understanding of the behavior of these individuals, about what they did and how they compartmentalized, and how to make sense of people like Huss and his family and those all around him. But the meetings, about the decisions, about all the things that resulted in one of the greatest horrors in the history of humanity. And there's already people who are tired of these stories being told, thinking that they've all been told enough already. Let's move on. There's other sufferings. There are other things or positive things. Film doesn't have to be about suffering. But I think that we see this, just like we did a few years ago with another film that I saw in the middle of nowhere almost, Son of Saul. We see ways of telling this story, which is a specific story, but also a universal story. We see ways in and around here of making sense of something that could never truly be contextualized. There were many people that wrote at the time that art was never going to actually be able to come to terms with something like the Holocaust, but the only way to do it is to come at it from different facets. And this, here we are 70-something years later, are still finding ways of using art, using cinema, to understand in deep, deep, deep ways the way that the world of evil works, of the way that certain people could completely take not only the tools of their country and their community and twist them into ways of efficiency, but also to do so in a way which continues to this very day in ways slightly more insidious, slightly more subtle, but nonetheless we can see how the lessons have not entirely been learned, and that there continue to be people that in some ways diminish what it is that was done at the time. It's people who do not who simply take for granted about the sheer monstrosity of these events. And in the most quiet and beautiful and eloquent way, this film sort of serves as a reminder, as a testament to all that took place. And so even though they occur off screen, we hear the screams. We witness what takes place, stuff that we can only perceive in the background. I mean, described sort of obnoxiously, perhaps. It's sort of like as the Enterprise has a sound in the background that's always there, but you grow to forget it. You forget the hum. It's so easy in this film to forget the suffering, and yet there's ways subtle and large that the filmmaker sort of reminds us of what takes place, that knocks us out of our stupor and shows us through a breathtaking work what really what real effect it can have. It's an extraordinary film, one that I absolutely encourage you to actually give a chance on, and one that I fully expect to be talked about for many, many years to come. For thatshelf.com, I'm Jason Gorber. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, follow us on social media. Let me know what you think of the film. We will see you next video. All the best. Take care.